The Labour MP, Kelvin Hopkins, was suspended by the party this week as allegations of inappropriate behaviour were about to be made public, allegations that were well known to the party leadership. He's the second Labour MP to lose the whip in as many weeks, and separately, another investigation has been launched into another Labour MP, Clive Lewis, allegations he denies. Well, as I mentioned, we're joined by Labour's Shadow Foreign Secretary, Emily Thornberry. Very good morning to you.
Morning.
How many complaints has the party received? How many active investigations are there currently into Labour politicians or party members?
I don't know. I don't know what the exact number is. I'm not involved in the investigations. I can tell you that what we've done, we're in the process of setting up a body which we think will be really helpful, which will be independent and which will be there to give advice and support and can be a first point of call. The thing is that a lot of what Theresa May is talking about is about doing, and the focus, and I understand why, but the focus is on Westminster and what's happening in Westminster. Actually, we want to be a bit more radical than that, and we want to talk about what may happen within the Labour Party anywhere. So whilst it's fine to set up some sort of body in relation to Westminster, we need to make sure that our processes that are already kind of pretty robust, but they've got to be made stronger, and that's why we've got this new body. And so people can complain, can come forward and get support and put in their complaint to this independent body about people from the Labour Party up and down the country if something like that has happened.
Can we start, though, with the internal processes of the Labour Party? Jeremy Corbyn, Andrew Gwynn last week, where you were sitting, suggested that those procedures were robust, enough to deal with what's going on at the moment. The changes you're making suggest that's demonstrably untrue.
Yeah. I mean, I would have thought that's right. Absolutely. And we need to make sure that we're now changing. I agree with you. I hope that this awful week will result in something different and something better coming from it, and a step change to the way in which we treat women, particularly young women and young men within our political process. Because, quite frankly, what are we going to do without youngsters coming into politics? I
mean, we will, at some point in the future, be in a position to review the changes that the Labour Party is clearly making. But at this point in time, we're in a position to examine the way in which things have gone. Bex Bailey raised the issue of the internal complaints procedure with the NEC 2 years ago. I mean, it took her bravery in coming out and talking about her own personal experiences to force the Labour leadership into actually doing something about it. Why?
Well, what I know happened was that she was attacked in a terrible way, that she came forward a couple of years later and spoke to people within the party. And as we've heard, someone in the party thought that it was a good piece of advice to tell her to keep her head down and not say anything about it. And that was appalling. And of course, we have to make sure we're now looking into who that person was, what on earth they were thinking about, and also into Bex's allegations, and which need to be taken seriously. I would personally think they're probably a matter for the police, but we need to make sure that this young woman is supported.
But the Leader's office was aware of this. It was only when the media turned its attention to this story that the party...
I didn't know that the media was aware of this. The Leader's office was aware of an allegation of rape.
The party were clearly aware that there was a problem. Bex Bailey had been pushing for the internal complaints procedure to be updated for quite some time. It took her talking about her accusation of rape for changes to even be discussed. I mean, for a progressive party, I mean, you're not just letting down your members, you're not just letting down your politicians, you're letting down, the young people that are flocking to the party in their droves.
Sure.
Can we talk about Kelvin Hopkins?
Well, it's difficult for me to talk about specific cases. Can I just be, it's difficult because given that we are investigating these matters. I don't think, that, just like it would be wrong for me to talk about Damien Green or anyone else, it would be difficult for me to talk about specific.
But we can talk about what happened within the party. He has now had the whip suspended. As you mentioned, there is an investigation underway. But he was promoted to the Labour front bench in 2016 after he had been reprimanded by the whips. I mean, why was he, a man who had an allegation of inappropriate sexual behaviour known to the whip's office on his record, why was he promoted to the front bench?
Now, this is all part of the investigation. I'm really sorry. I don't want to come on here and not answer questions, but I'm not in a position to be able to keep... You can keep asking me, but I'm not going to be...
Rosie Winterton went to the Leader's office at the time of his promotion and said, why on earth are we doing this? He's had a reprimand. We know that his behaviour has been subpar. and still he was promoted. Now, that does go to the Leader's office on this occasion.
I don't know. I didn't know that Rosie wasn't still the chief whip at the time. But if there had been a change of whip, then I don't know. I
mean, the problem is that Jeremy Corbyn cannot say that he cannot complain, I knew nothing of this behaviour. OK, Simon Danchard was suspended from the party back in 2015, December 2015, at exactly the same time that the party knew about the allegations about Mr Hopkins. Now, similar cases, entirely dissimilar treatment. One of them suspended, who happened to be a critic of Mr Corbyn. Another of them promoted to the front bench, who just happens to be a key ally.
Now, you can draw whatever conclusions you want at this stage, but I am not in a position to be able to comment on these matters in detail because they are under investigation.
I'm not sure.
I don't want to go. Well, I'm sorry, but that's what you're getting. So, I mean, I'm happy to go, but I'm here to try and give you such assistance as I'm able to. But I am not going to talk about internal discussions at the moment where there is an investigation going on. It is not for me, and I appreciate I may be being a bit lawyerly about this, but whilst an investigation is going on, we let that investigation take its course, and not to get involved in commentary on it or additional information or anything else. I'm not going to be doing that. Just like I'm not going to be casting aspersions in relation to any Tories, or any allegations in relation to them. It is just I just can't do it, and I'm sorry, and I appreciate you may want to push the story on, but I'm just not in a position to be able to be helpful.
It's not about pushing the story on.
Whatever.
I want to show you this. We have some, there are legitimate questions at the moment about the judgment of Jeremy Corbyn. I want you to take a look at this.
Good morning, Mr Corbyn. Good morning. Did you know that Kelvin Hopkins... Good morning, nice to see you. Thank you for coming to my home. Goodbye. Did you know about Mr Hopkins' behaviour? Were you aware of the allegations against him, Mr Corbyn, before you promoted him to the shadow cabinet?
Thanks.
Were you aware of the allegations against Mr Hopkins, sir?
Goodbye.
I mean, that's the leader of the opposition, the leader of your party, being asked why he promoted someone who'd been reprimanded for inappropriate sexual conduct, treating an entirely legitimate question with utter disdain.
No, you could see it another way, couldn't you? Which is, so the leader of the opposition yet again being doorstepped, yet again people being outside his house and asking him questions, and him not wishing to be involved in discussing matters that are being investigated.
Well, you knew about the allegations about Kelvin Hopkins years ago. He only had the whip withdrawn after press reports. Jared O'Mara, similar situation. Allegations put to the Leader's office in September. Party only took action. Well, party didn't even take action when the press reported them. He stood up at a meeting of the PLP, apologised and was allowed to continue on the Equalities Committee. Again, it was only after further press reports that he had the whip withdrawn. Bex Bailey, you only acted when the media got involved in all of this. Rather than treating the media with disdain, as Mr Corbyn clearly did in there, he should be owing us a debt of gratitude.
I think that the people who we owe a debt of gratitude to are those who have come forward with these allegations and who have been brave in the way that they have. I think that some of the people who have come forward, you have seen a complete character assassination going on in the media. So don't start virtue waving at me. It seems to me that we should be looking at the victims of this, and we should be making sure that our parties respond appropriately.
Actually,
and make sure that we
and the political parties, as you suggested at the beginning
and the parties need to ensure that we put in processes in place where people are given proper support and where we can change the culture. Right? Let's not get involved in a phony row about this. I want to make sure that my party, that this sort of behaviour does not happen in my party. I am ashamed of what's been going on, and I want us to do something about it. And we will do something about it. And we do something about it in Parliament as a workplace, as Parliament can be a workplace, and we can have processes there. But I want stuff happening actually in my party, so that where there are allegations that happen at party events, as Bex has said happened to her, that actually there's a process there as well, that people are supported properly, that there are proper discussions, people are not being told, keep your head down, dear, don't say anything, that the party actually supports people and gives people appropriate advice, which is why we now are going to have an independent body. Now, you can try and kind of cast aspersions in relation to the party, as much as you like. I cannot go into details in relation to allegations of individuals at the moment, because there are allegations which are outstanding and are being investigated.
On your brief, you're soon travelling to Israel and Palestine. I'm sorry to shift, but I do want to speak
That's
to you
right,
about. I do want to.
I mean, we're not going to get anywhere, and with so.
Well, I'm not so sure. I mean, you attended a dinner this week with Benjamin Netanyahu. Mr. Corbyn wasn't available to attend. I mean, do you think we're further from a two-state solution than we have been for quite some time?
Yes, I'm afraid we are.
So, what is the solution?
The solution is, I think, that. When you talk to people behind closed doors, politicians behind closed doors, most of them know what a two-state solution looks like. They know that they've been talking about it for decades now. What we need is people to expend a bit of political capital, to be brave, to take the leap, in order to be able to move this process onwards. But instead, in the meantime, we have incitement on both sides, we have the continual building of settlements, and we seem to be moving into a situation where it will be, what we need to have is two viable states, and the more settlements that are built within the Palestinian side of the border, the less viable Palestine becomes, and the more attacks that there are on Israeli people from the Palestinian side, the less trust there is from Israelis. So it needs to stop. It would be fantastic to have some leadership from the Americans at this stage, but whether we're going to get it or not is a moot point. So the Balfour Declaration, it seems to me, actually in the 100th anniversary, reminds us that British politicians can make a difference, that we can show some sort of world leadership. And it seems to me that the 100th anniversary of the Balfour Declaration, which did talk about making sure that we respected the rights of both, it's about time that we recognise the Palestinian state. But we could do that as a 100th anniversary.
It isn't the simple truth that no matter what we say to the Israeli Prime Minister at dinners and diplomatic functions, whatever, they continue to build. They continue to build, and there's nothing we can do about it.
Well, I think there is something that can be done about it, and I think that in the end, the conversation begins, I think, with a two-state solution is actually also in the interests of Israelis who want there to be a democratic, largely Jewish state. You cannot have a one-state solution that is a Jewish democratic state, because it'll be a majority Palestinian. There will always be a minority of Palestinians within an Israeli state, and their rights need to be upheld. But to continue to build in the way that they are, actually, I think that the current Israeli government is letting down the Israeli people, because they are driving a coach and horses through the possibility of a two-state solution.
It's a point made by a number of Israeli citizens themselves.
Absolutely, yeah.
Emily Thornberry, many thanks for being with us. Appreciate it.
No problem.